Okay. Hello, everyone. See, the clock's gotten bigger. So this is a problem because the clock that I'm facing, that I can see is the small one. The one that you can see is the big one. It should be the other way around. It'll be okay. All right. So in any event, we started speaking last week about Mechirat Chametz. Started now everybody's just going to look at the clock. Shouldn't have drawn attention to it. So we started speaking about Mechirat Chametz. We mentioned last week how different reasons why and different things, but the major concern is that there needs to be a real sale. It's an actual sale of chametz, and it's not just a legal fiction as such. And there are a number of things that we do in order to ensure that the sale should be as genuine as possible. So there are those. Again, one of the biggest problems we have is that normally if I sell an object, I sell an item, so I know what the item is, I have the item in my hand, and I give it to the person who's buying it, and then it's changed hands, and it's simple. Here you're saying, well, whatever chametz or tarovet chametz or chashesh chametz might be somewhere in the house. So that already seems a little bit disingenuous. And that's why the advice is that all the things, all the foods that I have in my house, which I'm worried might have chametz or might be that I want to include in the sale, I put them all in one kitchen cabinet, I put them all in one place, and then I know that this is what's being sold. And if it happens that on Pesach, the non-Jew who's purchased my chametz comes knocking on the door and says, hi, I'd like to have my chametz. So he knows where to go, he knows where to open it, and he can take his whiskey and whatever else it might be. So based on that, there are those who, when it comes to the shtar, we mentioned the shtar of, or the shtar of appointing, of doing the purchase, would write down and actually list the different locations. There's the kitchen cabinet next to the fridge, there's the shelf in the freezer, whatever it is. There are those who use such a shtar. The obvious advantage of doing that is that it makes it a more serious thing, and you know where the chametz is. The disadvantage in doing that, and say major disadvantage, is that if I have a bit of chametz somewhere in my house that I forgot about, right? I did the b'dikah, whatever, I cleaned, but it fell behind the couch, I didn't see it. And after chametz, after Pesach, I find this bottle of whiskey that fell behind the couch that I didn't know about. If I've now gone and sold my chametz only in specific locations, and that wasn't there, that wasn't sold, and now I have to get rid of it. And that's chametz shabbat b'Pesach. If, on the other hand, you just sign the shtar, which what we do here, and that is acceptable, and many rabbaniyot do it this way as well, where you just sign the document and you say, or whatever chametz I may have in my possession is included. Okay, so then it would be included as well. Yeah. Okay, so that's another one that says you can do that, but then the question is, why are you listing the specific places, right? If it's in every place, yeah, it's difficult to have it both ways, but okay, it's possible that you could do. Another point which comes out of this is why when we have the shtar, we write your name, your address, phone number. Again, there has to be at least a theoretical possibility that the purchaser is able to access his chametz on Pesach. So this is why people go away. It often happens, people go away. Okay, so you write your address and you write your phone number on the shtar. It's very nice, but you're in America, and if he comes knocking on the door is locked. And if he calls you, you're not going to answer because you're overseas and he can't get hold of you. That costs very serious questions on the sale. And that's why if somebody is going to go away, we say to them, is there somebody here who has access to the apartment, somebody who has access to the key? Write the phone number down in case. Again, the likelihood of this happening is not very high, but it's there and it's a possibility, and it has to be accounted for. So those are some of the things that we do. Another question which very, very often comes up, and many people have asked already this year, so we'll discuss, is what happens when people are traveling or when people have chametz that's in a different time zone, right? So I'm in Israel and I go to America, or vice versa, etc. So let me read to you from the Pnei Halacha. Again, the issue is the question is twofold. The question is what to do when Pesach comes in, and the question is what to do when Pesach comes out. So he writes like this. He says, okay, we have to sell the chametz in any event before the latest time that you can benefit from chametz. okay, which is the 5th hour of Erev Pesach. Obviously, once the Isur kicks in, you no longer have the ability to sell your chametz. If we already reached the 6th hour of Erev Pesach, at that point, you can't benefit from the chametz, and therefore you can't sell it, and you have to get rid of it. Okay, we try and do the sale as late as possible to give people a chance. You've got 2 weeks now to come and sell your chametz, but people always leave it to the last minute, so we do it as late as we can. Again, this year there's a bit of a change because we're a day early, because Erev Pesach is Shabbat. As I mentioned this morning, I'll just say this, that something very strange happens this year, because you'll sell the chametz on Friday, but most people will still have some chametz in their possession that they want to use for their Mishnah, etc. on Shabbat. So we actually write in Shtar where that is excluded. We're selling all the chametz in these locations, in whatever location, with the exclusion of whatever that you set aside for the Mishnah, that's fine. Now, Toshav America Shem Imtzav Yisrael. So if you somebody who's from America and is in Israel. Okay, so this is the easy case, because it says you can sell the chametz here. There is a discussion as to whether do we go by the time of where you are, or do we go by the time of where the chametz is? Okay, this is a discussion which is broad. Most poskim say we go by where the person is. Really, we try to be choshesh for both opinions. So we try to be machmer for the earlier time. Again, you want to be machmer for both, and you go by the earlier time. So if I'm in Israel, and it's going to come in here first. So he says like this. If you were to sell your chametz in America, for instance, then the time when it would kick in there is after the time that over here the Yisur of chametz has already begun. We go by the place where a person is. Okay, depending where, which time zone, but it kicks in here earlier. So that's fine. But now the question is, what happens at the end of Pesach? Somebody asked me the question this morning. If they have chametz in America, or if they're going to America, right, and they have chametz here, so he says now like this. So it seems that at the end of Pesach we have a problem. Let's say the person's in America, so there's not only is a few hours later, but it's a whole extra day later. The Rabbanut here in Israel buys back the chametz at the end of Pesach here, so it's still Isur chametz over there, and now you've seemingly reacquired your chametz. He says that is not actually an issue for the following reason. He says you can sell it in Israel, even though the chametz is going to be sold back at the end of Pesach. Here's the point. If you're in America and you're still now keeping another day, you still have extra hours or extra day of Yom Tov, so you aren't interested in reacquiring your chametz back, even though the Rabbanot comes and buys it back. But for you, you don't want to transgress, so you don't have in mind that it becomes your chametz yet. What happens to it at that point? It's a chametz nishal hefker or bilshut beit hadin. At that point, it's not the goy's anymore because he sold it back. But the chametz is now currently it's hefker, or it belongs to the beit din who's bought it back. You can't force somebody to acquire something against their will.
It's in your house.
It was always there.
It's not being bought back. It's covered. It's sold. Now it's no longer sold.
Okay, but in order for it to come back to yours, in order for you to reacquire it, it was sold, so therefore it's not yours. So it's still not yours until you reacquire it, and you have not yet reacquired it. Or birshut beit din, rak lachar sheyistem yom tov sheni shel galiot, yachzor hachametz lirshuto. Then he says, what if you have the following complicated case? In bnei mishpachto nisharu b'Amerika, v'hem mitkavnim lechol min hachametz achar shekvar higia shat yisur chametz be'eretz Yisrael. What happens if the family split? You have some people in America and you have some people here. So again, we said you want to sell you're in Israel, so you want to sell the chametz earlier when the Yisur comes in already in Israel. But there are other people who are in America who want to partake of that chametz because it's still mutar over there. So then he says, Yafkir et chelko be'oto chametz u'bnei mishpachto yimkeruhu sham. You should be, whatever part you had in that chametz is going to be, you are mafkir to the others, and the people that are there, they can take care of it and they can sell it, and they can sell it as well. Somebody asked me, there was another question somebody asked me today, this week, was if you have different people, let's say you have a shared apartment, and you have the chametz, and it's not, and different people use it, not a family or different roommates, whatever. Who can sell? Who owns that? Who owns that chametz? Or who's able to sell it? So I said that you should appoint one person. Everybody else can be mafkir their chelek, and that person can be the owner, and they can sell it, and they can take care of it. Okay. He brings here, by the way, as well, that there are those who have a chumrah, tremendous chumrah. Says that what happens when we get to after Pesach? Okay, so after Pesach, it's not that the chametz automatically becomes yours again, the chametz that was sold, because if that was the case, then we'd have a problem about with the whole mechira. The mechira is not done conditionally. If it was done conditionally, al manat, that it's going to be, I'm selling to the non-Jew on condition that you sell it back to me, that makes the whole thing null and void from a halakhic perspective, because it has to be an actual sale. It happens to be 99.9% of the time that we're going to go and buy it back at the end. That's okay, but it's not a condition, it's not an inherent part of the sale. But what that means is it has to go back, the Rabbanut has to go and buy the chametz back from the non-Jew at the end of Pesach. So, let's say Pesach, we generally wait a certain amount of time, so that it's feasible that the Rabbanut has gone and bought and has reacquired the chametz.
Why can't you do it in that way? For a lot of contracts, it could be in effect until such and such an hour.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem in terms of the contract. It's a problem in terms of Hilchot Pesach, in terms of Hilchot Chametz, because the whole thing is that we aren't allowed to own chametz on Pesach. Not only am I not allowed to own chametz on Pesach, there's a special din which we only have by Avodah Zarah and by chametz, according to some what's called Rotzeh B'Kiyumo, which means even if the chametz is not mine, but I want it to exist in the world, therefore I'm going to get benefit from it, then there's a problem. So it's a very clear, if the contract is stipulated in such a way that we do have a concept of matana manat lachzir. We do this by lulav, we do this in other parts of halacha as well. If it's that I'm giving it to you on condition that you give it back to me, so that would work contractually, but that's not going to work in terms of chametz. Okay. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer, Sakadosh Baruch Hu Zakot Yisrael, Yifrach Ba Lehem Tov Mitzvot, Shnei Ma'at Lechem B'Tzmat